Welcome back, Sebastian here. So our Spanish Grand Prix review. So overall, pretty good race, I thought. I know many people were hoping for rain, but unfortunately that didn't come. But that being said, lots of good on-track overtakes. So let's get started right away. So Verstappen started on pole, Sainz second, and both Leclerc and Sargent started from the pit lane. Red Bull started on mediums, Leclerc started on hard, and Sargent started on mediums. All other cars started on the softs. And for Red Bull, I thought this meant that they were fairly confident about their race pace, and also gave them more strategic options if rain did indeed come. So from lap 1, good start for Verstappen, managed to cover Sainz going into turn 1. There was contact between Hamilton and Norris. Stroll then overtook Hamilton at turn 5 for P3, and Norris had to box because he had a broken front wing from that contact with Hamilton. Also, Hamilton, I think, was pretty lucky not to get any damage there as well. Norris also boxes and switches for hard tires too. Lap 2, Perez overtakes Piastri for P10. Russell and then I think after that we got into kind of a holding pattern there. And then lap 5, Russell was up 5 places from the start. He was noted for gaining an advantage. I'm guessing he went down the escape road at turn 1, possibly, but there was no further action for that. Lap 6, Perez overtook Hülkenberg at turn 1 for P9, and Bottas pits for hards. Lap 7, Russell overtakes Alonso for P6 at turn 1 as well, and Tsunoda overtakes Hülkenberg for P10. So I think another thing that was important to note was that many of the overtakes were into turn 1. I think we only saw one overtake, or at least I saw one overtake that was not at turn 1 all race. So I think really the DRS was quite powerful today, and maybe they underestimated how closely the cars could follow going through the newly reprofiled Sector 3. So I think maybe that's something that could be worked on for next year. So at this point, I'm not even going to bother saying what turn they were because they were all turn 1. So let's see. So lap 8, Hamilton overtakes Stroll for P3. Piastri overtakes Hülkenberg for P11 as well. Lap 9, Perez overtakes Zhou for P8. And that's where I wrote down DRS a bit too strong because many of the drivers are able to get a move done well before the corner, often around where the pit exit is. So that's, there's probably about 100, 200 meters to go from that point all the way to the corner. So they have loads of time. Lap 10, Zhou pits and De Vries as well. Lap 11, Russell overtakes Ocon for P5. Tsunoda pits as well as Magnussen. Lap 13, Leclerc has good pace on his mediums. I thought lap 14, Ocon pits from 6th place, and he comes out in 13th. And right in front of this battle between Hülkenberg, Zhou, and Tsunoda. And Tsunoda was able to then overtake Zhou because of that at the outside of turn 3 for 15th place. Lap 15, Stroll pits as well, has a good 2.6 second stop, and comes out in 12th right in front of Ocon. Tsunoda then overtakes Hülkenberg for P14 as well. Lap 16, Sainz pits for mediums, and he came on the radio to ask why. I think he was expecting to go to the hards right away, but he goes in 9th place. Zhou overtakes Hülkenberg as well for P15. Lap 17, Leclerc, I think this is, Ferrari made an extremely questionable strategy call here. So Leclerc pits from the hards, he only does 17 laps on the hards, pits to the softs, and comes out 18th. So I think Ferrari almost negated the entire advantage of starting on the hard tire, which means you can go really long, by pitting him on lap 17, well before the Red Bulls, well before the Mercedes, and right after Sainz. So I really did not understand that strategy call for Leclerc. I think if he had had a more optimal strategy, I think points could have been on the cards today. Lap 18, Piastri pits down to 15th, and he gets overcut by several of the cars that he was ahead of before. Lap 19, the Mercedes race pace I thought looked really good, and they were very strong, and they were overtaking many of the cars around them, such as the Ferraris and the Aston Martins. Sainz overtakes Gasly for P6, and Piastri overtakes De Vries as well. Lap 20, Alonso and Gasly both pit for softs. This was a bit of a strange strategy call for the Aston Martin, but to go from soft, but so be it. And they come out 10th and 16th respectively. And yeah, Gasly also came out on the medium, which is about the strategy that I was expecting. and Alonso promptly overtakes Zhou for P9. Lap 23, Gasly overtakes De Vries for P14. Lap 24, he gets Magnussen for P13. Lap 25, Hamilton boxes for mediums and comes out in 5th. So see, Leclerc basically on his hards, he only got to lap 17, but Hamilton was able to get his softs all the way to lap 25. So not great there by Ferrari, and Magnussen pits that same lap. Lap 26, Russell pits for mediums, comes out 6th, and Verstappen pits lap 26, and he stays in first. So he's the last driver to pit, actually no, second last driver to pit. 2 laps later, lap 28, Perez pits and comes out in 9th. That same lap, Russell overtakes Stroll for P4, and Hamilton overtakes Sainz for P2. So that's where the advantage of the Mercedes race pace is really starting to show up. Perez, lap 30, Perez was chasing Alonso, and he finally gets him laps later for P8. Lap 32, Russell, a bit of a comedic moment. He thinks there's rain at turn 5, which would be a bit of a strange corner to be reporting rain from first, given that it's kind of in the infield, the inside of the track, and it turns out that he thought it was actually just sweat from his visor. Lap 33, Russell overtakes Tsunoda for P7. Lap 34, then overtakes Ocon for P6. So Perez is making his way up the order and trying to make amends for a really poor qualifying yesterday. Lap 35, Russell overtakes Sainz for P3. Stroll pits for hards and comes out in 13th. So not a lot of laps on the soft tire for Stroll. I think, let's see, where is that? Stroll pit lap 15, yeah, so only 20 laps on the softs. So not great, not terrible though. But yeah, he comes out, pits for the hards, comes out in 13th, and Tsunoda pits for mediums and comes out 14th. Lap 36, Ocon pits for hards and comes out 14th. Lap 37, Zhou pits and comes out 15th. Lap 39, De Vries pits as well. So with a race with a lot of two-stop, everyone I think believed doing the two-stop strategy. You know, there's lots of pits, and there's also a lot of overtakes off track as well as on track today. Ocon overtakes Tsunoda for P11, and overtakes, like I said, overtakes seem to be too easy, and I think can overtake well before the corner. So that's why I wrote after Ocon overtook Tsunoda. Lap 41, Piastri and Gasly both pit, and they come out 13th and 14th respectively. Lap 42, De Vries overtakes Norris for P16. Sainz pits for mediums, has a 3.1 second stop and comes out in 6th. Leclerc pits for hards and goes to 14th place. Comes out in 14th place. So that's really another kind of failing of one of Ferrari's strategy, right? You know, they pit, they go only 17 laps on the hards, and then they pit lap 17 and then come out lap 42. So that's about lap 25. Yeah, 25 laps on the soft, I guess. Yeah, 25 laps on the soft, but only do 17 on the hards. So makes very little sense for our strategy today. Lap 44, Zhou overtakes Hülkenberg for P10. Lap 45, Hülkenberg pits. And I said Mercedes upgrades look really good, and the race pace was very solid, and they were able to keep Perez at bay pretty easily. Alonso pits for hards, and he did 25 laps on the softs. So again, not really kind of strange strategy from the Aston Martin. At this point, there's only 20 laps left in the race, so he's going to be doing 20 laps on the hards after doing 25 laps on the softs. So really questionable strategy, I thought, for the Astons there. And he comes out in 10th. Lap 46, Russell pits for softs, comes out 4th. Lap 48, Alonso overtakes Zhou for P9. Lap 49, overtakes Tsunoda for P8. So moving his way up the order after his bit of a bungled strategy, I thought. Lap 51, Hamilton boxes for softs, comes out 2nd, and Perez does as well, and comes out in 5th. Alonso then overtakes Ocon for P7. Very late move by Ocon, still seems to think that Alonso is driving an Alpine. Very aggressive defense, I thought. He was lucky that there was no one in the pit lane because he effectively just shoved Alonso into the pit lane. Lap 52, Verstappen pits and retains the lead. He pits for softs. Lap 43, Perez overtakes Sainz for P4. Lap 54, Tsunoda was closing in on Ocon, so pretty good race pace for Tsunoda up to this point. But lap 55, he kind of starts falling back a bit and is challenged by Zhou. Lap 56, Zhou tries to overtake Tsunoda, but goes down the escape road. And it looks like he was kind of preemptive, like there was no contact, but basically, I guess the show thought that Tsunoda was coming over, and he was coming over a little, but it wasn't like super close, and there was no contact either. But it was noted for this by the stewards for basically forcing a driver off track. Lap 59, black and white flag for track limits for Verstappen, so he had to be careful, but not really. He had basically a pit stop in hand over Hamilton. Lap 62, Tsunoda was given a 5-second penalty. I thought this was quite harsh given that there was no contact and there was no position gained or lost in this in that moment. So I thought pretty harsh for Tsunoda. Lap 63, Max was told to rein the pace in by his engineer. Really, there's nothing more to win at this point, or nothing more to gain. Lap 65, Leclerc chasing Gasly, but to no avail. And the final lap, Verstappen, I think a couple laps before, was able to get fastest lap. So that is the Grand Slam for Max Verstappen, the third of his career, as he takes the checkered flag. So that's pole, win, fastest lap, and led every lap of the race. So third of his career after, I believe it was Austria 2021 and Emilia-Romagna 2022. So your final result from the Spanish Grand Prix: Verstappen first, Hamilton second, Russell third, Perez fourth, Sainz fifth, Stroll sixth, holding off Alonso, although I think Alonso was going quite easy and didn't really try to go for a move there. 8th Ocon, 9th Zhou, 10th Gasly, 11th Leclerc, 12th Tsunoda, 13th Piastri, 14th De Vries, 15th Hulkenberg, 16th Albon, 17th Norris, 18th Magnussen, 19th Sargent, and 20th Bottas. So no retirements for this race. Your championship standings after the Spanish Grand Prix: Verstappen extends his championship lead with 170 points, 53 points clear of Perez in second with 117 points. Alonso is in third with 99 points, Hamilton fourth with 87 points, Russell in fifth with 65 points, Sainz in sixth with 58 points, Leclerc seventh with 42 points, and Stroll rounding out the top four teams with 35 points. Alpine are next with Ocon in ninth with 25 points, and Gasly, his teammate, in 10th with 15 points. 11th is Norris with 12 points. 12th is Hulkenberg with 6 points. 13th is Piastri with 5 points. 14th is Bottas with 4 points. 15th is Bottas' teammate Zhou, also with 4 points. 16th is Tsunoda with 2. 17th is Magnussen, also with 2. Albon is 18th with a solitary point. And De Vries and Sargent round out the championship standings, both with 0 points. Your Constructors' Championship: Red Bull extend their lead with 287 points. Mercedes are now second in the Constructors with 152 points. Aston dropped to third with 134. Ferrari are fourth with 100 points. Alpine fifth with 40 points. McLaren sixth with 17 points. Haas seventh with 8 points. Alfa Romeo also with 8 points. And 9th are AlphaTauri, and 10th are Williams with a solitary point. So that is the Spanish Grand Prix. I think it was a decent race. I think an improvement over past years. I think the track, changes to the track definitely helped that. That being said, I think a lot of us were anticipating rain. The rain didn't come, and I think while there were a lot of on-track overtakes, they were almost too easy. Like, many of the drivers were able to get that move done well before, and because of that, there was very few trains and very few cars that were especially close on track in long trains like we tend to see. Which, even though I think there's a healthy balance in the middle between long trains where it's impossible to overtake and overtaking where it's too easy, and that kind of perfect balance is kind of what Formula One should be aiming for, I think. So I think next year, as long as they shorten the DRS zone, I think it'll be make for a more positive race and make overtaking a little bit more challenging. I think the result of the race was pretty much decided pretty early after the first turn. Verstappen was basically untouchable all race, and he managed to race extremely well. Of course, I'll be giving my thoughts more in depth tomorrow with my power rankings, but that's all for today. It's been a very long day for me. Lots of different series I've been covering today, and some other stuff non-video related as well. So thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments down below. Who did you think was your best driver of the day? For me, I think it was Verstappen. Even though he does have the best car, he controlled it and was basically flawless throughout. So that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.